Destination Nightmare, the B-Movie Podcast.
The most hideous scheme in the history of mankind, brings to the screen a diabolic international intrigue where violent men quickly eliminate those who stand in their way.
God, this should give you the willies.
What?
Theft of body admitted by North Dade Hospital.
Oh, her glasses are falling off. Never mind. I'll take it. Thank you. I appreciate your help, Hans. We have so little time.
I didn't mind. I know the work that you and Dr. Frederick are doing. It's very, very important. There, that's it.
Flesh Feast, where the dead serve the living, where innocent people die at the hands of evil men who'll do anything for power and money. Veronica Lake is back, with hatred in her smile and vengeance in her heart.
Acting like a raving maniac, frightening the girls. Now you want to disturb my laboratory? Well, my answer is no, and that is final.
I never said the process was pretty. It's a special breed of Caliphora. They feed on human flesh. There. See the little hooks around his mouth? They clamp under the flesh while they are feeding. What's the matter? Don't you like my little maggots?
For those who love horror, for those who have the guts, Flesh Feast will make your flesh creep. Don't miss it.
This movie's kind of a relic of a of a lost time, you know. And I mean, basically, this movie, the thing that I just kind of I forgot about was, I thought there was more exteriors, but this movie's pretty much shot in that house there, you know. It looks like it's on the beach.
Yeah, and I'm sure the laboratory, I mean, could have been just, just.
Who knows? It might have been the laundry room and they put a table on it, you know. I mean, the guy who shot this, Brad Grinter, man, he did some serious crap. He did that Blood Freak, the one where the guy smokes a joint and turns into a turkey monster.
Oh, yeah.
Same director.
Oh, my God.
Same guy.
Wow.
Brad Grinter. He did a few other ones, but the worst thing he ever did, and I had the unfortunate experience of watching a clip from it. They put out Blood Freak.
Yeah.
I forgot what the second movie was, on Something Weird was a company who's still around that used to do like bootlegs, but then they got a company called Image to distribute their movies and do nice copies of them and put them on double features. This was in the early 2000s, late 90s, and I used to buy these. I still have them somewhere, a lot of double features, and then they would put a bunch of trailers in the middle. It was a great thing. But there was one for, I think it was the Blood Freak one. Yeah, it was Blood Freak. So, you know, you got the movie, you got a second movie, I forgot what it was, trailers, and then special features. Okay, so the special features has like one clip, and it's called Brad Grinter Nudist.
Oh.
So, you know, I'm like, okay, well, I know I'm asking for trouble, but yeah, actually, I went there and it was horrid, man. It was horrid. It was horrible. Words cannot describe the horror. It was more horror than anything in this movie, that's for sure. So anyway, so yeah, a lot of those movies were made in Florida too back then, the nudist movies or whatever, and they're pretty whatever. Anyway, so Brad Grinter did a few movies, and then he dragged Veronica Lake out of retirement, you know.
This
is her last movie.
Yeah, last movie.
Sadly.
When I first, I'm like, it can't be the same Veronica Lake, but then she came on, I'm like, yes, it can be.
She was retired for 20 years and she came back for this. Brad must have done a great selling job on her. I don't know, because whatever.
Maybe she needed cigarette and beer money or something.
She was only in her 50s and she looked older than 50s, you know what I mean? But, you know, she was probably, like you said, a lot of drinking and a lot of smoking. And actually on YouTube, after this movie ended, they played a clip of her on the Dick Cavett show from 1970, which was kind of interesting to watch, you know.
Oh, cool.
Because she had just come out of retirement, so I guess it was a big deal. Oh, Veronica Lake's back, but ooh. One of my pals on Facebook said he actually saw this in a drive-in in 1970. So I was like, oh my God, I'm so like, you know, envious of you. And he goes, no, it's horrible. I go,
yeah, but that's the whole point of those drive-in movies.
oh man, they played the worst crap ever. I saw the worst movies at the drive, and some of the some good ones too, you know. But
good ones, but some awful crap. I can remember going to see some movie with my dad. There was something about the real Dracula or real werewolves or something. It was a drive-in. It was a double bill with some other horrid movie, and one movie was bought out, and then the guy who bought it was a shorter movie, so he bought another movie and spliced it in and did things in flashbacks, and it was the weirdest. It didn't make any sense.
Oh, now you got me thinking about who was in it. Do you remember?
I think Scott Brady, maybe. Or,
well, Scott Brady did tons of crap.
I think. I'm not exactly sure. Because we're watching it. Because the Dracula movie was on first. I don't even think we stayed for the end of the second movie or whatever. Because it was just so awful.
Oh, Scott Brady.
Yeah, I think it was Scott Brady. I mean, and I'm going by... I don't know, I was like 13 or 14.
So again, what was the plot again? Is it a horror movie or sci-fi or?
Maniac running around, and these two cops are looking for him, and they're talking about his past crimes.
Huh.
And the past crimes are the flashback of another movie that was cut into the...
Oh, you know what? That might be one of those Al Adamson movies.
It might be.
It might have been Blood of Ghastly Horror or something like that.
It was one scene where a police guy got mailed a severed head in a box.
It's Blood of Ghastly Horror. Oh my God! Now we got to watch this.
Okay.
Now we're gonna have to watch. You got to watch this. Oh, that's horrible. Yeah, you're right. You nailed it. When you said it's a movie, and then they saw an older movie in there, I go, that sounds like an Al Adamson, Sam Sherman POS, and it is. It's Blood of Tommy Kirk is in it too.
Yeah.
He's the guy who gets mailed the severed head.
I think so, something like that.
And what was funny about it was, it's mailed in a box, and the box says to whatever his name was, and it was at the police department, the homicide department. They couldn't even spell homicide right. It's fantastic. Blood of Ghastly Horror, also known as Psycho a Go-Go, and
it might have been that.
Oh, I'll find it.
They open it, and the head's in the box on the desk, and then they start talking, and they don't do anything with the head. I mean, I'm going back.
Was Carradine in it too?
Who?
John Carradine.
He might have been.
Oh, I'll find this. I'll have it to you. I'll Dropbox it to you.
Yeah. It was just so bad.
But just the fact that you got to see it in a drive-in, I'm again envious. This was where in Jersey or something. You saw this?
Oh no, it was on Long Island. We had moved to Long Island. There were a few drive-ins around then. It was like 74, 75 when we saw it. The thing about the vampires or Dracula, it was like had Vlad Tepes and stuff. Was
it In Search of Dracula or something like that? Was that the name?
It was kind of along those In Search of movies with the video music, and you see scenes of castles, and then they do some reenactments and stuff.
Oh, I gotta find these.
Yeah.
That's so cool. You went with your dad. Did you? Nobody else? Not your brothers or anything like that? Just you and your dad?
Both my brothers were married and out of the house.
Oh, okay. So it's just you and Pops.
Yeah, just me and Pops. And they didn't have the same... They were more interested in science fiction than just
But your dad liked the horror movies.
Well, he wanted to see the Dracula thing because he liked.
Oh, so cool.
He would read. He'd go to library and find all these cool books, like Satanism in America. And,
Oh God.
He brought home one book. It was about Ed Gein.
Oh no.
He'd read that, and then he'd be reading like biographies about like politicians and movie stars, and so he had this really broad range of interests in books. And he would read different books in different rooms. So the book in the kitchen was, I don't know, about Satanism, and the book in the living room was about the guy who built parks in New York City, and the book in the bedroom was about the history of medieval winemaking or whatever. So you'd be sitting there looking at things like Ed Gein, like, ooh. And I'd always go to the picture section because there was always, like, in the center of the book, you had the black and white photo section, and you're looking and like, just all this stuff. So he liked all, and he would always bring home books like a Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster.
Oh God.
UFOs. He really liked UFO stuff.
A cool dude.
Yeah, we saw a couple of UFO things too in the movies, but those were in movies, not the movie theaters.
Oh yeah, back then the Chariot of the Gods and all that stuff.
Oh God, yeah, he brought that book home, and I would read it, and I had to read it while in between his reading thing, and it was like fascinating as hell. And then I found that weird paranormal UFO book section in the bookstore. Then I'd buy all the paperbacks, and oh, that's interesting. And he would read my paperbacks and stuff. That like the mid to late 70s was a time like In Search Of was on, and they had all these weird, cool things about UFOs and ghosts. And it was like this magical time, and you always felt like reading this stuff. This is before everybody got very like realistic and
yeah.
To believe in that stuff. But this was like cool, and like you felt like the Loch Ness Monster was going to be found, or like they're going to capture Bigfoot. And every Friday he would get the National Enquirer.
Oh my God, even the Enquirer, that's awesome.
Yeah, and that was the time when they were less about celebrities and more about ghosts, paranormal, weird stuff, and fun
I remember like Fridays my parents would get paid, so we'd go supermarket.
Yeah.
And you get your stuff, and at the end you check out, you get your TV guide, and then my parents would buy an Enquirer. And at that time it was about celebrities, but still.
Yeah. And I remember you get the TV guide. It was like what I would do is Friday night or Saturday morning, I'd go through and just look for horror, fantasy, and sci-fi, and circle them.
Yep.
Well, I put a circle next to them so that I knew when they were coming up. So I'd like if it's Tuesday, so I'd look through the thing and see what movies are coming on. And in my area, because it was the New York metropolitan area.
That was a lot.
There were some channels in like Jersey that we didn't get, and they would have some cool movies, and I'm like, die.
I know.
Or Connecticut too, they had some cool movies, and you're like,
We had the same thing here. Where I lived it was weird the way it happened, but where I lived was in Miami. It's kind of not South Miami, but whatever. But we couldn't get the West Palm Beach channels. Yeah. Well, we couldn't get them well. Some people could, but for some reason I couldn't. The antenna wasn't strong enough, or there was trees. Anyway, we had our creature features and Nightmare Theaters and MT Graves and all that. But on West Palm, they had their creature feature, and they would show a way different things than we were doing. It was the same thing. So you'd see it, go, damn it, they're showing Shriek of the Mutilated. I've never seen that before, And I'd be trying to get my antenna and stuff, and no good. But again, some people that lived a little bit further north of me, and it wasn't that, like my friend had this antenna at his house, and his dad, it was a funky antenna where you could actually control the movement of it from inside the house. Yeah.
Like what, the motorized ones?
Yeah. So he could get it sometimes, but he wasn't he wasn't as crazy as I was about these movies, and I wasn't staying at his house, so, I couldn't get, one time, maybe one or two times I got a picture that was good, but usually it couldn't, and then they would show completely different movies from the ones in Miami, so, I would talk to people, oh, did you watch it? Oh, yeah, I saw it on Creature Feature, Channel 12, and I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
And then here's the real killer. When cable came in, West Palm, northern Fort Lauderdale areas would get the Miami channels, but they would also get the West Palm channels. We didn't. So they could record them if they lived further north and we couldn't. So all these guys recorded a lot of these movies.
Yeah.
This is the pisser, though. Here comes the final nail in the coffin. And I give these guys hell for it, and they're like, well, hey, what do you want me to do, man? They would record these movies, right? They would cut out the intro, which was cool, and they would cut out, you could leave a couple commercials maybe just to get the flavor, but they would cut it out. So all they had was like a 6-hour tape with 3 movies on it, but no intros. And the intros are what's cool about them, because it's like, oh, wow, look at that, Creature Feature, and all it was 2 minutes. Why the F didn't you leave it in? But nobody did. I'm the only goofball that would record the movie and not dub it. Just leave it as it was. Okay, I got the intro, but there wasn't any horror shows down in Miami at the time. It was just the late night Big Wilson movie or whatever, and I would record them, and they have all the, but my friends would go to all the trouble of hooking up two VCRs and sitting there and doing this. Well, why go through all the trouble, man? Here's why: because it's space on the tape. They want to get as many movies on the tape.
Back then, tapes
it wasn't cheap.
20 for a blank tape.
Yeah. So
they had to record it on the slowest speed, which gave you the crappiest quality.
Yeah. I did it too, but by the 90s, early 90s, there was already stores that they were selling them cheap at that point. Because they were getting manufactured by way more. So I remember going to a store called Farmore, and by like 90s, say, they would sell you a 5-pack for $10. So shoot, you don't have to go 6-hour speed anymore. But they would go through all the trouble of taking commercials out. Okay, fine, take the commercials out, leave the intro, please. But no, so that's But yeah, the same thing happened. With us, we couldn't get the West Palm channels, so all that stuff. There's still a bunch of movies that people that I talked to saw that never came down to where we live for some reason or another, And it was only an hour and a half away.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. When we moved to Long Island, the cable channel there, Friday nights and Saturday afternoons, they would, on Channel 6, which was their public access channel, whatever, they would switch to a Philly station. You'd watch these great movies, Channel 29, I think it was, and it was different packages than what was available in New York. You'd watch these great movies, but they'd always cut off like the last half hour. So I saw the beginnings of a lot of great movies.
But they changed the channel.
They changed the channel. We'd go to like sports or news or whatever, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, my friend was telling me that we lived in Altoona, but it worked in his favor. They get a local channel, but the channel would end at like midnight, and then it would cut to a Pittsburgh channel, and then they get to see the Chiller Theater show, because that was from Pittsburgh at when the channel ended at 12 or whatever. So it was in their favor, but I don't remember any channels dropping out here. They would just go to a test pattern for a couple of hours, and then come back at 6 in the morning or something. I remember a time, you probably do too, maybe not because you were up in New York here. I remember a time maybe like in the 70s, early 70s maybe, before they started doing all the UHF. When UHF came on, no. But when UHF wasn't that big, the local channels would end like at 2 in the morning.
Yeah, sometimes earlier. Sometimes after the 11 o'clock news. Then you'd have like short movie, and at like 1 they.
I still have it, one tape,
Oh,
and I recorded. I have one tape, and it was I recorded a Spanish sort of horror movie on the local Spanish channel 23 or whatever it was. And when the movie ends in Spanish, it goes like, and obviously it's in Spanish. Okay, well, our channel is 20,000 watts and blah blah blah. It's in whatever in Miami and blah 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 blah. And now here's our national anthem, and they'd show you the planes flying and the music, and then after that, man, it went beep.
Yeah.
They actually
Channel 20
did that.
was cool because at the end, instead of playing the national anthem, they had a picture of a road going off towards the sunset with like a fence, like farm-like fence behind it, and they would play the Beatles song. Was it "Now It's Time to Say Goodnight"?
Oh, Good Night.
And that, good night.
Good Night, yeah, from the White Album, the last song.
Yeah,
sung by Ringo.
That's how they would close their broadcast day.
That's pretty cool.
It was Ringo singing "Good Night," and I'm like, damn, that's great. And it was like cool, and yet very sort of sad because it's like, oh, Friday night's over.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I could be wrong on this. I think somewhere there's a demo of John Lennon singing it or something, or a different version of it, because he wrote it for Ringo, but
yeah.
I'd have to find it. It's probably on one of those like $150 box sets of the White Album, or it might be on YouTube. Everything's on there too. So hey, we need to talk about Flesh Feast.
Well, killer title.
Great title.
Interesting poster. Movie. Although I have to say the surprise ending was kind of worth the
hour you had to wait to get to it.
This could have been like a good Twilight Zone episode, more or less.
Yeah, kind of. Hell, who knows? It might have been. I don't.
Yeah.
Well, there was a lot of these. This is a combination of like, we'll give you the spoiler alert ending or whatever. This is a combination of like Nazi exploitation, and that thing that was going on in the '60s where they were getting old actresses to do horror movies. Remember, it was like Betty Davis and Joan Crawford and all that. So they got Veronica Lake out of retirement to do one now that sadly, but. That's the way it goes, But anyway, so it starts off with Miami International Airport for like a brief second. They could have showed more of it, but that was the old Miami International Airport. And I remember going there when I first moved there. I went there with a bunch of people, not even to get on a plane. We just went there to see the sights,
I used to do that too. Go to the airport and just watch planes come in. You sit at the cafe, and you could go to some of the little stores there. Sometimes you could find magazines and books and comics.
They had great newsstands.
Yeah. But then, the people hijacking started, so then everything got super security.
Yeah, I remember there was one night, my mom, they made friends with this other family, a bunch of kids and stuff, and they went, well, let's just go on a ride and look at all of Miami. So we got in a station wagon, and me and the kids got in the back. And remember, the station wagon, the back faced the opposite way. So we saw all, we went to the airport, the islands where the rich people live, Miami Beach. I still remember it to this day, and you're talking like 50 years ago, maybe. I still remember it. Cool. I still remember going to the airport and getting like a Mad magazine paperback or something. I was like, oh my God, look, they have an old Mad magazine paperback, 50 cents. Oh, you got to get it for me. And they did. I was like, oh yeah. It's funny how you remember all that stuff. God.
Yeah. If only you had that good memory for school subjects.
Yeah, well, anyway.
From, when I was like 6 years old, but like most of school is kind of a blur.
Pretty much, yeah. So anyway, it starts off at Miami International Airport, and I guess there's two FBI agents, and they're in the phone booths, and they're calling their superintendent. That's Brad Grinter on the phone, the director.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, that's him. All right. And well, he's in Blood Freak too. He's got that. He narrates Blood Freak, and he's like smoking and coughing throughout. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, so they're telling them that some what was the guy's name? I just forgot the guy's name. He's coming to Florida, and they're watching him because of he's an arms dealer or something like that.
Yeah, he's an arms dealer, and he's involved in some organization. They keep referring to an organization or a revolution.
Yeah, because there's Cubans then coming in later, or fake Cubans. One of them's a fake Cuban.
Yeah, at first they mentioned in South America, and like you said, they had the Cuban guy or the Spanish guy come in. So I'm thinking communist maybe.
Yeah, revolutions. I mean.
So there's a guy following the arms dealer, and he goes, and apparently the guy's a newspaperman. He calls his office and he talks to his editor and says, I followed the arms dealer, and I want to follow where he is. And they're like, all right, well, be careful. And in the meantime, this other guy goes in the bathroom, dresses up as a maintenance guy, and he's mopping the floor. And the other guy's in the phone booth, and he's got a big knife in his hand. So as he's mopping and he's pushing the mop back and forth, he moves the knife out and stabs the guy in the phone booth and kills him. Then he closes the door and then disappears. And then the guy in the newsroom's talking to his secretary or assistant or whatever, or maybe another reporter, and turns out there's a woman.
Veronica Lake.
Yeah, there's a woman. Yeah, she's some kind of doctor, and then there's an undercover agent going. I don't know if it was a newspaper or.
I thought those guys in the phone booths were agents.
I thought they were newspaper, but maybe.
Well, they were kind of. They had those suits and stuff, so they didn't look like. But then again, I don't know.
That makes better sense. That they were like FBI and
they were tailing them.
Better agents and stuff. So then you see the guy, the arms dealer, gets picked up by Veronica Lake, and they smooch and drive off, and they go to the house, and they're talking about an experiment and
At first, it's like something about like an aging to reverse aging or whatever. And there's some. I think the scene where with Brad Grinter. That's right. They were newspaper people. I think, and the agents were talking to him. And I think some girl that the newspaper girl knows went to work for her or whatever. She's going to be a nurse or something.
Oh, something like that. She's a nurse.
Yeah.
Or something, and she works. And she also works in a hospital.
Yeah.
The Veronica Lake and the arms dealer are talking and kind of cryptically, and then she goes, takes him down to the lab and shows him like buckets of maggots and whatever.
And beetles or whatever. And
doing and eating people, and then there's an operating table, and she's like, "Oh, that's my special room, and you can't go in there because the colored lights are act like a temperature gauge for the
bugs."
So I'm like, all right, whatever. So then the
So then I think that's when the Cuban guy and his pals pop in, right, or whatever.
Well, there's a scene where the nurse comes in and she brings her like a finger or something for the maggots to eat, and apparently, what do you call it? Breeding special maggots that only eat human flesh.
Yeah, right. She goes in all about how they like go under the skin and eat some cells or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So and so she meets the newspaper guy, and he's like, "Oh, you gotta, do what you need to do." And she's like, "Well," she says she needs something bigger, or more bodies. And so the what you think is the newspaper guy, he actually turns out to be an FBI agent. He arranges for the nurse to
get her a body,
dead body, and they're going out in the wheelchair. And, they bring the body in, they start cutting it up and putting parts of it into the maggot trays.
Yeah.
And then the three...
They just pop in, the three revolutionary guys or whatever.
There's like all three nurses, or two or three nurses.
Two nurses, I think.
They work up... They live in the same house that the lady owns.
Veronica Lake, yeah.
So these guys burst in and they demand to see the lab, and the head guy, I forget what they call him, the leader.
Yeah, the Cuban guy.
The Cuban guy, but the Cuban guy says, "Well, the leader's here. He's only like a couple of hours away."
The commander, yeah, they call him the commander.
Yeah. And she's like, "Well, you can't rush the experiment," and so the Cuban guy tries to push his weight around, and
so then they bring in another guy. Remember, they bring in he was the actor Bill Rogers, who did a lot of voiceover work, and they bring him in for an experiment to see how it works. Because at first he comes in, and he's not the commander.
Yes, he's not. Yeah. That's right. They bring in that other guy to do some experiment.
Because he looks really old and pale at the beginning, and then they do the maggot thing with him, and then they make him young or whatever.
So in the meantime, one of the Cuban henchmen falls in love with the nurse.
Yeah, that's an actor called Chris Martel, who's like did a lot of these people in this movie were local Miami guys, like.
Oh, okay.
Brad Grinter, Martel, Bill Rogers, some of the behind-the-scenes people like Bill Kerwin and Doug Hobart. They all were Miami, low-budget guys or whatever. So they're known names in the Z movie industry of Miami, anyway.
So he and the nurse have a mutual attraction, and they start getting friendly. Romantic, and he's like, when she's like, "Why are you doing this?" And I'm getting paid a lot of money, and I have to do some tough stuff. But when this is all finished, how about you and me go travel around the world for 6 months? So they establish that they're attractive to each other, attracted to each other. So then the head Cuban guy comes up, and he brings the commander with him, and you don't see who the commander is.
Well, no. Before that happens, remember the guy who they rejuvenated. Right, he's sitting there, and then the girl's taking his bandages off, and he's like, "Wow, I really look good now," and he's all admiring himself, and then she's like, "Yeah, you look all right," and he goes, "Look, come here." And he grabs her and he starts raping her or whatever, and then he goes I like to treat girls rough too, whatever. And I think he strangles her, right? He kills her. And then the other guy who liked her comes in and kills him with a knife.
Yeah, and then the arms dealer comes in and goes, "Oh, you realize who you did? You shot the second in command of the movement of the revolution, whatever." So.
So they hide the guy out. They put him in a cloth, and then one of the nurses sees him, the one that went in the room and saw the dead, because it. Yeah, because they remember they stole a woman's body from the hospital, the one nurse, and that's the one they sawed her leg off or whatever. Yeah. And then that's the one they had hanging in the lab when the woman walked in and went nuts screaming or whatever. And in order to stop her screaming, the guy punched her in the face.
Knocks her out.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, they kill the second in command. They throw him in the bushes or something, you know.
Yeah, get rid of him. And then the head Cuban guy comes and says, "Oh, the commander's like half hour away." And says, "Well, you can't rush that." And they're all nervous because this new batch of maggots are dying faster than we thought. And, you hear a knock on the door, and you don't, and you see the commander comes.
You don't see his face.
You don't see his face. So she said, "Well, I'll get you all ready." So then, they're down in the cellar, and she's strapping him in. And he's like, "Why? Oh, these are so tight. What are you doing to my hands?" What? He says, "Well, you can't have a young, handsome face with old
hands."
So he goes, "Okay, So then she goes, "Let me prop you up," and then she props him up, and then the camera goes, "Ah!" And it's Adolf Hitler.
He lives.
Survived the war. So then, as he sits up, he sees a painting on the wall and goes, "Oh, what a beautiful woman." She says, "Yes, that's my mother. She was
concentration camp."
Well, yeah, she was there. "Oh, well, she died for the cause, and we're gonna, when I'm young and handsome again, the revolution will
begin again, and the Fourth Reich and all that crap."
Comes in and she's saying, "Oh yeah, but my mother, she was a prisoner, and she died for your experiments." He says, "Well, but it was for a good cause." And so then she starts putting the maggots on him, and instead of rejuvenating him, they're eating his skin and eating his face, and he's screaming in pain. She goes, "Oh, you don't like the maggots? Oh, well, I guess not, because my mother didn't like them either." Maniacally, like, "Whoa, this movie made like a total 90-degree turn."
Yeah, right.
And then outside, the newspaper editor, who turns out to be an FBI guy, he comes in with some strong-arm guys. I guess they're other agents. And they're like, "You know what you've done?" And the arms dealer is sort of like blocking the door, and he goes, "Yes, I know what I've done." And it turns out her and the arms dealer were planning this all along. And even though he was a crooked arms dealer, apparently, he was in love with Veronica Lake, and they planned since they knew Hitler was alive, they had planned this all along to, have his face eaten up.
And then kill him, basically, and then finally get him and kill him or whatever. So it ends up with her going like, something like, "Heil Hitler," she starts laughing or whatever.
That's right.
And she goes,
she's like, "Heil Hitler."
And she goes, "This is for democracy," or some crap. Well, the maggots are eating his face up or whatever, and then it's like, the end. I was sitting in the living room, right, and my mom walks in, and she sees that. She's like, "What the hell are you watching?"
That always happens. It's always when the woman drops her clothes or clothes, when your mom walks in and goes, "What are you watching?"
"Why are you always watching such crap?" I go, "Because I'm going to talk about it later." She was like, "Okay, whatever. What's for lunch?" And then I go, "Well, I have these little maggots that I've been growing," and no. What a movie! What a movie!
Yeah.
I thought this had played on TV, but according to my friend, I don't think it ever did. But I don't know. It has that look of a late night TV movie,
Yeah, you see it playing on late night TV with cutting a couple of.
Yeah, maybe.
You could play it no problem.
Because even that scene where like the nurse walks in and you see the lady parts like chopped up, that looks so crappy,
Yeah, it was. Oh, she was all blue with orange hair, and I'm like, what?
Those were special effects, I think, by Doug Hobart, who did Death, Curse of Tartu or whatever. Oh man, yeah, yeah.
And it was funny to interrupt. The guy was using a saw that you would use to cut tree branches.
Yeah, I know. Not the
not surgical.
Not the surgical one, no. Yeah, you know this was made for about $100 or something, you know. Veronica co-produced it though, so she put up some money.
Yeah.
Brad must have wined and dined her real good to make this thing.
Yeah. Well, sometimes something on script or like
looks
now
better.
looks better than when you actually film it. And with a little tweaking here and there, probably could have been a little better movie.
Yeah, like maybe a few bucks and a better director, maybe.
Or it could have been, it would have been a great
episode.
Shorter.
Yeah, Twilight Zone or something.
Twilight, or like part of an anthology.
Yeah.
Movie.
Yeah. One of the segments. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was only an hour and 10 minutes though, but it was padded.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, there was like a couple of things where you turn around in a parking lot, and a couple, other scenes of driving or people walking. I was like, oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, this movie had more padding than the nurse's bra in this movie here. I mean, I'm telling you, I mean, it's ridiculous. But I love this crap. This is another one that came out on VHS, but has never made it to DVD or Blu-ray. Surprisingly, no. I mean, it's a classic of garbage. So you would think that one of these companies would, I've got a real nice VHS of it that I bought it on Amazon like 10 years ago. It looks better than this, version, but maybe there is a nicer print out there. Apparently I remember reading years ago that some company was going to put it out, but they never did, which is a shame because, but I'm sure they will. All these Blu-ray, all these companies are searching for stuff to put on, Blu-ray or whatever.
Technology has gotten better where they could sort of bump up the resolution a bit.
Oh, for
here
sure,
and there,
yeah.
fix some things.
This thing looks like it was shot on 16 millimeter though, so
yeah.
If you have like a negative, maybe you can work with it a little more. But it's never going to be like super duper quality, but better than this. You know. But it's on YouTube, so anybody can watch it. It's been on YouTube for years, so anybody can watch it and see what the greatness of Flesh Feast is. There's so many of these movies. I think we watched one. We watched Shockwaves, right? The ones about the Nazis.
Yeah. The surf Nazis.
Yeah.
For Nazis.
There's another one called the Flesh Eaters that has the same theme. The Boys from Brazil. There's one called He Lives from the same idea where they saved Hitler's brain, of course, and we watched The Frozen Dead, didn't we?
Yes, we watched The Frozen Dead. We watched Surf Shockwaves.
And we've done 3 Nazi exploitation movies.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, back then they were like the go-to villain.
Yeah.
Not a thing. I think in part because
the war had only been like 20 years,
Yeah, and also we were in the Cold War, and Russia, I guess, was too close to the truth. So a lot of times the Nazis stood in for Russian evilness and no goodness.
No, that's it. Yeah, and remember, like they would have all those old men's magazines, and a lot of them would have like she was the Nazi queen, Nilsa She-Wolf, and whatever, which they made movies of, also. But there's always these like they call them sweat mags with these great covers of like the Fourth Reich and women bondage and Nazi guys spanking them or whatever. So there was still that. You know? Nazis are great villains, man.
Yeah, they are. They're just like pure real. I've been listening to some podcasts and watching some things on. Apparently, a lot of them were like a lot of the German Nazi army were hopped up on various drugs and amphetamines and stuff because it made them, more
superpowered.
aggressive. Yeah, needing less sleep, less food, and more psychotic. Like,
I bet.
Even Hitler apparently was on like a lot of heavy duty pharmaceuticals.
Oh,
So,
there's no doubt about that. All the weirdos he had working for him, experimenting and stuff like that. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's always a lurid subject matter that makes for crappy movies usually.
Yes.
Not many good ones that I can see. I never saw The Boys in Brazil, but I'm sure that was pretty.
That was pretty good.
You saw it, okay, all right.
I went to the movies with my dad to see that.
Gregory Peck, right?
Right.
Yeah.
This one was it Hitler's? They saved Hitler's brain.
That was an old one, yeah.
One.
That was the one where they took two different movies.
Oh, they put them together?
Yeah, they did that. They did that gimmick. Took an old movie and kind of fixed it up with a new movie, and yeah. I think the old one was called The Madman of Mendoris, and they added new scenes, and they called it Save Hitler's Brain. Yeah, that's yeah. The Flesh Eaters was pretty good too. I mean, that was kind of a low budget, but it had some good gore effects. Yeah, they're always, of course. The Frozen Dead creeps me out, so they're always good for, and Shockwaves too, But anyway, yeah. But this is probably one of the cheapest and the cruddiest one of them all. So
yes,
it deserves our review. But now I got to find blood. I want to see if I can rip. I have it on DVD. I want to see if I can rip a copy of it and put it on the Dropbox.
Okay, that sounds.
We're gonna
cool.
we'll do that one that's on the Dropbox next, right? The
Zeta 1 or
Zeta
something.
1, yeah, we'll do that one next because that one's got like a lot of TNA.
Yeah, notice I was just searching through movies and I came upon Space Babes from Outer Space.
Oh yeah, those things. Yeah, those Fred Olin Ray things or whatever.
Credits they had boobs. I'm like, oh okay, maybe this is a.
Yeah, maybe this will be it'll be in the future for. Yeah, Zeta 1. I remember renting it because of course they made a different title for it. It's called Alien Women, and I'm like, okay, and I'm like, holy moly, and it's got some of the women in it are from Hammer movies, so but this one's a little sleazier than those Hammer movies, so you'll enjoy it. Not much of a the story's all right, but. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So, yeah, Flesh Feast, man. I mean, watch it at your own risk. Don't expect. It's 70 minutes of your life you're going to be putting up for. Do you want to spend 70 minutes of your life watching this? Why not?
If you had a hard day, a hard week, and it's Friday night, and you get pizza and beer, and you just look. Something on the screen where you don't have to think. This is a good movie. Sure.
There's so much stuff to watch now. It's ridiculous. You know what I mean? It's like every streaming channel, like you said, Tubi, Amazon, all these people. There's so much stuff. They're just digging through for stuff, searching, creating. It's like
there are some streaming channels you never heard of, like Popcorn Flicks or stuff for free.
They all repeat the same movies, though, it seems like.
Sometimes you can find one or two different movies. I never remember seeing that before.
Lots of commercials, but whatever, and the same commercials over and over again. But yeah, whatever, Cool. It's free with your internet or whatever. So
I'd take advantage of it.
Tubi's pretty good. They've got some real good crap on there.
Yeah, Tubi's pretty good, and I don't know movies, but IMDb TV.
They have good stuff on there.
Good stuff on there too. Yeah, there's some. Yeah, you can find good stuff if you just look. And usually, you go to YouTube and you want to watch a movie. If you put in the title of the movie, the year, and then full movie, usually you could find a copy of it. Because sometimes you put in the title of the movie, and you get, like if you did Flesh Feast, you get a bunch of video, a bunch of results for like Flesh or just Feast. But if you put in Flesh Feast, was it 63 or something like
70.
that?
70. This movie was actually from 70, believe it or not.
And then you do full movie, you're a lot more likely to come up to that movie.
Yeah, you should put more description in it, or at least, or the main actor maybe.
Yeah, that also helped. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I typed in Flesh Feast and I got it. There's also all the guys reviewing it, and there's trailers and all sorts of stuff like that. But yeah, definitely, yeah. So yes, Flesh Feast, a crap classic. Hopefully they'll put it out nicely so you can watch this piece of greatness in 4K glory or whatever.
On the 55-inch screen.
On a 55-inch screen, yeah. Anyway, we'll be back next time with Zeta 1. And in the meantime, Destination Nightmare B-Movie Podcast. That's what we are. I'm Al.
And I'm Roddy.
We should have said that at the beginning, but oh well, now you know. Hopefully you enjoyed this show, and in the meantime, while we're working on another show, we ask you to watch
more B-movies.
B-movies.
Tonight, meet the twisted genius of Edgar Allan Poe. Experience a terrifying tale of druid witchcraft and the scream that kills. Cry of the Banshee. American International presents new heights in horror never before filmed. Vincent Price stars in this new adventure in terror and torture. Don't miss Cry of the Banshee. You'll learn to fear it. Rated GP.
It's so scary, we dare you to see The Monsters Crash the Pajama Party, the first movie ever filmed in horror vision, Hollywood's latest miracle. You'll scream as fiendish movie monsters actually become alive, then crash right out of the screen, go into the audience, and carry screaming girls from their seats right back into the picture to become part of the movie. We warn you, horror vision is not 3D. The movie monsters become real flesh and blood. Be sure to see The Monsters Crash the Pajama Party in horror vision and color.